New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Good morning. Welcome again to Healthy View, Healthy You. I'm Dr. Len Young, and with me today is Dr. Stela Susac-Pavic and Rebecca Taylor-Shaw. And we're back again to continue our conversation on anxiety. Last time we talked a little bit about the clinical aspect of anxiety and how it is in throughout our lives and permeates everything that we see and do. And today we'd like to talk a little bit about anxiety in our everyday lives individually. So speaking from the standpoint of professional and personal. And I thought it might be interesting for you to know a little bit about the history of psychology back in the 1700s, before the Industrial Revolution. Men and women, for the most part, had equal responsibilities for their daily lives. So both of them got up early in the morning and started their daily tasks, which were critical to living, eating, sleeping, and doing what they had to do in order to run their lives. When the Industrial Revolution came in, it became a privilege for women to stay at home and not work. And men became the main workers. And then it became a privilege to work overtime. That's when the word workaholic came to be. And it started us down a path, several hundred-year path of men working overtime and becoming workaholics, and women becoming nervous out of boredom and not having anything to do at home. So we've seen a pathway of psychology growing, and how do we handle something like the women who are nervous and staying at home, and then the men becoming workaholics. Well, we've gone a full circle now, and things are starting to change. Have changed in a big way as women have gotten back into the workforce in different ways than they did in the 1700s. So we'll look a little bit at what that means for us in our everyday lives, how many responsibilities we each have, men and women, how we divide them, and then how we allow ourselves to keep making commitments. For instance, Stella, you're a full-time professional with family and children to take care of, and so can you weigh in on this a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. It's always beautiful with you. How is our sound?
Yes, I thought that I heard a little feedback.
Yeah, so we'll continue, but I'm not sure that our sound is the best. But Len, you were just always, I would say, tuned with me in the term that this morning I woke up as almost every day or every night, although I consider myself very cheerful and positive person, I do wake up as a working mother, wife, professional, running the business, searching for the meaning of the life with that grasp in my stomach. Am I going to be able to perform today? Am I going to be able to fulfill the task that I put on myself or other people are expecting for me to keep that level of the professionalism, not failing as a mother, not failing as a friend, daughter. The load and task are huge. And there is just that fine line that I do believe anxiety as a symptom, as a feeling, is actually telling us that we're doing something wrong with our life. And if we approach anxiety as a feeling, not like something that is bad and uncomfortable, but as a friend of us who is actually is our inner mind, who is actually trying to tell us and lead us on the pathway of fulfillment and happiness, if we approach that feeling and focus on that feeling in the positive manner, I do believe we can we can achieve to be most of our time and most of our living free of that feeling, and actually find and search who we are and where we want to go, as a person, as a mother, as a professional, and so on. So as I said, such a beautiful comment, and the pictures you made about that pre-industrial revolution, industrial revolution time, in which we need to find a fine tune, because we need to understand that work is a cure for many alignments, many problems in our life, but overworking is disease, and it is causing the problem in our everyday lives. So I would say just this, that whoever listening us, whoever mother is right now in the cubicle and needs to run back home to cook dinner, clean the house, pay the bills, to take a couple of deep breaths, and have a positive view, see yourself as a fulfilling those tasks, and search in her souls how tomorrow or the day after tomorrow they want to approach themselves and their life. So that's what I would love to add.
Mhm.
That something that you're familiar with? I mean,
I have heard you.
Were you going to me, Lynn? The audio broke out a little bit.
yes, I am going to you because you also have children and a full-time job and a full-time working husband, and we have lives that are very full.
I'm in the thick of it. I have 2 teenagers who are just starting to drive, by the way. So I'm using my own anxiety reduction techniques daily. But yes, I loved what both of you have said. And Stella, you mentioned that we need to look at anxiety as not the enemy. And I really love that, because if we look at an emotion as the enemy, typically that's an emotion that doesn't feel good. And today we're talking about anxiety. So people will tend to want to try to just suppress that emotion, ignore it, even get mad at themselves because they're not tougher, or because they're too sensitive. Many people with anxiety talk to themselves in that way, and then we'll try to just distract from it with sometimes unhealthy patterns, alcohol, food, being too much on the computer. And instead, if we understand the nature of anxiety, we can really move past having this unhealthy relationship with the emotion itself. You know, in caveman times, anxiety served the purpose of having us be aware, pay attention to danger around us. And then if there was danger or perceived danger, the brain would put us into this adrenaline, cortisol raised state of fight or flight. And so the problem today is that we are experiencing things constantly that we can perceive as a threat. And then we're in this constant state of fight or flight where cortisol is constantly being pumped out. The adrenals are constantly being taxed. And we weren't, I'm sure Stella, as a doctor, you can explain more about this, but as I understand it, you know, we're not built to be in that constant state of fight or flight. And, you know, what I want to highlight is that it is perceived. So you can put, again, 2 people in the same situation, and some people thrive on that running late for something or having 30 things to get done in their day, and other people react to those external situations with anxiety, going into fight or flight. And then the other side of it is that our own mind, we can run stories through our head of things that happened in the past, things we're worried about happening in the future, whether they actually happen or not. So we have the opportunity, and many of us live our lives this way, where we just go from one anxious event to the other, one anxious thought to the next, and it becomes a habit and a pattern. And what's interesting about that is typically the first thing someone will do when they perceive something as anxiety producing is they stop. You literally stop breathing. And then the body decides, am I going to fight? Am I going to flee? And so that cascade effect that flows through the nervous system is there. But let me tell you, there is a third choice beyond fight or flight. And it's what I teach my clients in my office, and that's the relaxation response to stress. And later on, I'll talk about that and describe that. But it's really liberating when you realize that you don't have to go into fight or flight, that you can actually control the symptoms. You can direct your reaction, your response to stress and stressful thoughts.
Like, you know, you make a good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's the key for the Western women and men and our children, is to actually take a moment in everyday lives and actually embrace their thoughts, to be actually conscious on which way they are thinking in the moment of unpleasant emotions, and actually being conscious and realizing that they are actually forming imaging in their mind that is not good, that is unpleasant, that is harming for them, and actually take that and says, oh, look, let me paint different pictures. That doesn't mean that it's not important to be realistic, but the reality also is something that is formed by each person in their own mind. Inner thought, inner artist of us can decide actually on which way the problem that we have as individual, as a family, or as a whole world, how we are going to address. We have a very heavy situation in the world right now, in which many people are afraid of the massive war, of the loss of the lives. We see that the children are dying. Those are realistic things that no better or worse painting will solve for us. But what we can do as an individual in this moment is to collectively call in the positive force of the positive spiritual force, in which we, with a prayer, definitely can change the certain reality, in which we can discuss the certain things to the level in which we are actually praying for the peace. That is also tool for anxiety. Prayer is a tool for anxiety, is invoking and calling the light to come and overcome any darkness in us and surrounding us. So my brothers and sisters, today find the 5 minutes, and whatever that means for you, invoke the good.
I think that's probably one of the best suggestions that any of us can have, and that leads to what our whole mission is and our purpose is of starting this radio show.
Yes,
is
ma'am.
to talk about making a choice, that we can choose the way our lives will run. And when we're in the middle of a very anxious moment, if we can remember, if we can put in place a tool that says, wait, there is some other option I have, like your relaxation response, or even changing the thoughts. If the thought is, oh no, this is horrible, but in the middle you stop that thought and say, I am calm. Even if it's just something simple like I am at peace, even if all around you is not at peace, then you start to shift that energy and how that is working in your life. And I think it's important. But I wanted to address something you said too, Rebecca, because it brought to my mind internal versus external forces. So we have all these external forces that are constantly at work within and without our daily lives. But in the work that I do with the Tomatis method, the nervous system, and particularly the vagus nerve, is affected by things that we've experienced: ear infections, flus, childhood illness, things that have happened to us if we've fallen off of a bicycle or broken a leg or been hit in the head by a baseball or a softball, things we've done as people as we're growing up that we've been able to live through, and life goes on. Even a small concussion, it can come back to affect our system. And what I see is there's something internal that can start or keep going, keep running, when we are not aware of it and we don't have any real thought of being in control of it. So I'm sure you can speak to the vagus nerve probably better than I can, Stella, but I know that the vagus nerve does connect to the vestibulocochlear nerve in the brain, and it is effective in the auditory pathway. So if we have something going on that is in our ear or in the way we hear sound, it can affect how the nervous system works. So when you go to bed at night, or sometimes you might recall, you're ready to just crash and go to sleep, but your system won't slow down. It just feels like it's running like a motor. Well, that's something internally that might be going on in your own system. And there are solutions to that, solutions from getting into yoga or doing some kind of special exercise to something like the Tomatis method or the relaxation response. But doing something to work with your own system is a good action to take for yourself. You're not crazy. There is something that has occurred during your development in life, and it can happen even if there's a major head injury when you're 55. There can be something. And the brain will respond to multiple different options and ways for you to take care of yourself. So there's an internal and an external position for anxiety that I've experienced with a lot of clients. And there are many ways to handle that. And choosing a good route that brings you some peace is an important step.
Yes. So when I met Rebecca for the first time, I was smoking, and I was not supposed to smoke. I stopped smoking for 20 years as a young woman, didn't touch it, didn't think, but I started my business and I wanted to be young again, and I connected cigarettes with something like a rebellion to the society. Don't ask me too much, but that was middle age crisis, and it's always knocking on my door. Forget it, that is not. So I find a hypnotist. My patients were telling me that hypnosis is working. As a Catholic and as a doctor, I was thinking, hypnosis. I mean, what I can achieve with hypnosis, what hypnosis is at all. Is this some voodoo? What is that, So I went to Miss Rebecca, find a very pleasant woman sitting on the other side, the relaxation musics. And what Rebecca was able to teach me at that moment is she gave me a right to relax. Unbelievable. So the things that I brought from that visit was a right to relax. That's hypnosis. It's to give you that moment in which you can, even during this conversation, take a deep breath, be focused on those small muscles in your body. Then, as you mentioned, our ears. If you pay attention, every single one who is listening right now on the ear, you will see that actually you can relax that small tubes inside yourself and be more perceptive for your surrounding and be more relaxed about your surrounding. So that is what I'm recommending to every single one of you, and I will ask Rebecca to share experience of the allowing ourselves to relax. So Rebecca, can you let us know, how did you achieve that? Where is the gift coming from?
Well, two things I want to say about things that each of you have said. Len, thank you. I absolutely love that you said that when you change your thoughts, and that can eliminate or minimize anxiety. And that's actually a step I teach people. And then I use hypnosis. So in hypnosis, it's different than most people think. It's actually a relaxed state of focused concentration, much like when you're watching a movie. And when we're watching a movie, we're affected by a story. In hypnosis, the story's happening in your mind, and one of those stories might be that you're responding by relaxing during a stressful event, and perhaps, and most powerfully, you're thinking differently about the situation. And what I find is when a lot of people come to me, they're so stressed, they're so amped up, that to tell them you need to change your thinking is beyond what they're capable to do in that first step. So what I do in the first step is teach them to have to learn the relaxation response. So think of an athlete, a basketball player, or maybe a pitcher. You've seen those people when they're getting ready to perform and there's a lot of pressure, probably anxiety for many of them. They will shake it off. So you'll see them shake their shoulders and the shoulders drop. And so it's very simple, and many of you may have learned this or heard about it, but it's progressive relaxation. And you would just take 1 minute of your day at work, at home, or even when you're watching TV, and check your body and notice where you've got tension areas. Typically with anxiety, people will get it in the jaw. So try to make your jaw, loosen your jaw. Check your shoulders. You know, people literally carry the burdens of everyday life on their back. So check your back, check your shoulders, and find those areas starting at the top. It's always, in hypnosis, we were taught you start at the top of the head and you work down, because there's a relaxation when you go down, as opposed to when someone says get up, raise your energy, you're going up the body. So typically you're just checking your face, your shoulders, your neck, work down your arms to your fingertips, and do this progressive relaxation. And then notice when something stressful happens, instead of this knee-jerk response of tensing, tightening, not breathing, get yourself to breathe, get yourself to be loose. And like I said, I use this technique quite a bit. Years ago, I had to go downtown and give a talk about hypnosis to a group of attorneys. And that was a little stressful because I wasn't really sure if they would embrace this complementary health modality, if they would just tear me up in the room. And so I'm driving to the meeting, and I'm literally at every stoplight checking my body for tension areas and telling those areas to relax. And that's really important with public speaking. If your body's tense, it's going to affect your throat, your voice, your delivery. So it's a really simple technique, and it's a conditioning. Again, athletes will condition themselves to relax under pressure, to relax under stress, and so that they're more fluid and they have more accuracy and speed in their sport. But everyone can use it, everyone can learn it. And then you'll notice, like now, if I'm going through something stressful, I will catch myself literally go, because I've done it so many times that my body will relax. And when I'm having an engagement with my strong-minded 15-year-old son who wants to drive before he's got his full license, I will catch myself literally breathing before I speak to him. And so it's something, it seems so simple, but I can promise you the effect of it, if you practice it enough, is very powerful.
You know, that makes a lot of sense, and it brings to mind another awareness that I'm constantly practicing. So it must have been maybe 15 or 20 years ago, I realized that I would just say yes to everyone who'd ask me to do something, and all of a sudden I would find my day was so full, I barely had time to eat my meals, much less take care of my children or my husband. And so I mentally decided that I would only commit to certain things. well, I've been through that several times, finding myself just recently overcommitted again. And I do think that that our world is changing and that time is shifting. So what we do in a period of time perhaps is changing as well. But I found myself in the same position. I had made a commitment a year ago to help with a group coming to visit, plus my jobs and my family. And it was really interesting to me when I woke up and realized I was sick. You know, I had actually gotten really run down and my throat was hurting. And I had allowed that to happen. That was a choice I had made. And I wasn't very conscious of that choice. So that is an anxiety to me, that adding so many things in my life that I allow my body to get run down and mentally and emotionally to get run down, so that all I want to do is sleep to feel better. So it's in that same idea of taking that deep breath as you're making commitments. Whenever anybody asks you if you would like to do this, even fun things, want to go to lunch, want to go to a movie, want to go to a fabulous symphony, think, is this the time? Will it add more stress to your life? Is this going to make you run down the next day, so that all the things that you love doing anyway are also going to be too intense and your body can't take it? And so I'm constantly reminding myself. So having my mind be conscious of it, it's a consciousness. And I always think I'm up to date, and then I find myself totally surprised. So it's something that we have to constantly rewind and become aware of. Or do y'all have that experience as well?
Oh my gosh, Len, you just struck gold with that for me. I would say for the past couple of years, that's been one of my biggest lessons in not knee-jerk reacting to saying yes, because, you know, in our society as women, we're the nurturers, and also we love to connect. So there's been many things I've had to say no to professionally, because I just can't spread myself that thin. But even enjoyable things, sometimes it's better for me to stay home. And so my rule of thumb now is I say, thank you for inviting me. Let me check my calendar. So that way I don't overcommit. That's my pat response. Thank you so much for inviting me. Let me check my calendar. And then I'll give it at least a day before I decide. And then I gut check it and really think about it. And then again, if you get this tension response where you stop breathing or you resist, it could be because it's not that it's a bad thing to do, but it's just, it's going to overwhelm you. It's one more thing on your plate that you don't need. So thank you for mentioning that. That is very powerful.
Well, I think it's actually something we all deal with. So Stella, how about you? And we have about 2 minutes.
It's a prevention. It's something that I'm not naturally tuned to the scheduling and organization. I'm sort of the person who is living in the moment, because this is where I found my happiness, in connection with the people, in connection with the nature. This is who I am. But giving this society, mother, doctors, educator mode, when I found out that schedule and reaction, Rebecca, beautiful reaction on that schedule when you feel the tension that it's not moment for you to do, is the most powerful preventive tool that we can do for ourselves, is to actually, if we can achieve that, we actually leave in our space the time that we have nothing to do but read and explore. I think our anxiety will definitely decrease tremendously, and be sure that we have that time for the walking on the beach, climbing the mountains, pray, being who we are in the moment, because somebody else is scheduling our time and putting all the things on our plate. Half of my office right now is over there from 8 to 5, you know what to tell them. Come on, ladies, breathe, try to relax, move around, and be sure that you finish the things on the schedule, so that you do have a time for yourself and for your family. over the weekend and after hours. So Len, right on the tune again, putting the exact amount of the work at the exact time. And not working is anxiety, overworking is disaster. So
thank you both very much. We're at the end again, and we'll plan to see everyone the second Wednesday of May at 9 o'clock again, and we're going to be talking about relationships. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Have a good day, everyone.
happy spring.
Happy spring. Happy Easter.
Find a moment for yourself, ladies. Bye.
Bye.